All right, this was posted on the official channel. PoE developer interviews Kane Bennett, audio and narrative director.
Goblin pet.
Oh, no.
Why?
Oh, dear.
Hello, Exiles. Welcome to the first of our dev interview videos. I'm Eben. I make trailers and other marketing bits here at Grinding Gear. We're starting this series because we want to give you some insight into who our devs actually are, behind the Mark and Jonathan of it all.
Cool.
We've done written interviews before, but nothing beats a good chat. Today, Kane is the first brave soul to appear on camera. You might have seen Kane at ExileCon, where he talked about audio design in Path of Exile 2. So, what do you do at GG?
I'm glad they're doing these side of like the people behind the scenes of this, because they don't really do too many of these. Normally it's all about like patch notes and stuff like that. But when I go to New Zealand, this is actually what I want to do, is like talk to a lot of these guys. Like they're developing the game behind the scenes. So I'm super glad they're doing this.
GG.
Okay, hang on. So if I'm gonna do that, do I really need to go through a run through of every, like, how I started as a sound designer? Does that sound lame?
No.
Okay, all right, do it again.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry. Well, that is a good question, isn't it? I started here many moons ago as a sound designer, sort of worked my way from there to leading the audio team, getting more involved in dialogue, and then became audio director. And in recent times, I've also taken on narrative and building that out as a department, because, you know, for PoE, narrative's not really been a department as such. It's been a thing that's there and it happens. You know, there's people around, they make it happen. But now we're like actually trying to redefine what the story and narrative parts of PoE are in a way that doesn't hinder gameplay and actually just feels complementary, something that you can digest and understand. So, you know, like the boss fights, we try and pump as much narrative into those as now too, like the Geonor slam poetry, bit of that. That was pretty cool.
I'm actually glad they do shit like this in the campaign, because it actually makes the campaign feel a little bit more, I don't want to use the word impactful. I feel like that word's kind of used too much, but it makes it feel like you actually have moments where it's like, okay, this part is done, because you were leading up to the boss, you have the cool like manner beforehand, then you go to the guy, he's got like his whole poetry he does, like you have this whole moment, and you're like, act one, you know, job done, as opposed to just blast through a stat stick character that just has a bajillion HP or whatever, you kill him, on to the next thing, nothing really happens. Like, it's much more of digestible acts, you know. It feels like, okay, this is a stopping point for the day or whatever. I did act one, I'll come back tomorrow, whatever. You have act two, etc.
Our Exile endured, but soon all were devoured.
How long did it take you to go from starting to just being the director of all of it?
I think it's like 7 years now.
7 years?
Something like that.
So you've been here a while. What's special about Path of Exile for you?
What's special about Path of Exile is also special about GGG, is that, you know, we kind of work at breakneck speeds, pivoting whenever we need to make sure we're doing the right thing for the moment, you know, like what players are thinking.
So you're reading reviews and you're pivoting, reading forums. Reddit.
I feel like these are like two brothers that troll each other all day or something. They both seem like they're barely keeping it together, and they kind of want to start cracking jokes. Like, that's the vibe I'm getting between these two dudes.
Or just like someone comes up with a cool idea, and in larger companies that might be hard to pivot, so hard to make that work, because you've got X number of dependencies on what you're doing and sticking to that. Whereas we're like, nah, let's do it. It also has moments of stress and chaos, but that is part of the fun and mitigating that.
As an aside, I think I finally understand why everyone sits on these chairs like this. Because they're so deep. You can't sit up because it would look weird. You can't just sit back because it looks weird. You have to...
Am I slouching? Probably.
Most recently, your team put a lot of love into the Mercenaries of Krastis. Were they as fun to make as I imagine?
Yes. That was fun. It was like, what started off as the league will be based around mercenaries. You get a mercenary, you hire one, you'll run around with them. And then we sort of suggested the Trathis thing. It's like a place we haven't learned too much about. So we got to do that completely, starting with we knew we needed some mercenary personalities.
I really hope he asks him about what was the thought process of having like Tom the Moron, where it's like, and like that's like the voice lines for him. I want to know how that came to
coming up with a bunch of interesting personalities is difficult. Like you get to a point where you struggle to come up with the next one. And someone posted on Twitter about one of the ambusher ones because he just kind of speaks gibberish.
Yes, exactly. Dax the P Brit.
And it was literally like we were just getting tired of trying to come up, and we just like wrote any old crap on there, and like, hang on, let's do that.
And just mash the keyboard.
So that was fun. But no, it was fun, and we sort of developed a whole like house family system of Trathans. Like the idea being the Eternal Empire way back when were casting out their worst criminals, sending them to a place essentially to die, right? But when they got there, instead, they did very well for themselves and sort of assembled these houses and families of death trades. So, it's like Australia, right?
Mercenaries of Krastis is Australia.
Yeah, it's just,
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And they're all Australians. Why didn't we give them Australian accents?
Oh, we didn't want to be too blatant with it. No, just kidding. We have Australians on the team. It was just an in-joke.
Cool. On to the important questions.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Goblin pet.
Oh, no.
Why?
Oh, dear. Well, look.
Goblin pet.
We have an issue system, right? An issue tracking system, like a job system. And I get an issue for this pet that's going to like be a band pet and sing and stuff. So I'm like, cool, well, I'll make that as good as I can. And I was at home and I just had Mike and I did some scat goblin like vocal stuff, right? Thinking nothing of it. And Camille and Michael, music guys, got involved and added the music part, and we developed, oh shit, this is quite cool. Great, happy with that. Now, like, my voice is the most hated thing in the fucking game.
Wait, he's the holy shit, that's hilarious. That's him. He's the guy.
It's not my fault. I didn't come up with the idea, but I gotta own that.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
You've left your mark where it matters.
I mean,
This is the guy we blame
it's kind
for
of fun
everything.
at the same time.
It's pretty fun. Pivoting to Path of Exile 2, has it been very different working on that? Because we've been here working on Path of Exile 1, now 2.
Well, yeah, I've kind of been working on PoE 2 most of the time I've been here, funnily enough. It's still not out. No. I mean, that is the nature of making a whole new thing and pushing. I mean, it is enjoyable to work on, 100%. Like every time, working on PoE 1 is familiar, and I wouldn't say it's easy, and we still try and push ourselves, but there is a certain expectation on PoE 2 that it just makes everything a little bit more time consuming to create. Yeah, we push ourselves on the narrative side, the story side, and dialogue. Obviously,
What's
like the
his
player
address?
characters are all
I need
talking
to have a word with him
throughout,
about the
trying to give them
goblins.
more personality, which was it's a hard thing to find the balance of when they should shut up and when they should talk. But
how do you find that balance? Because that's such an interesting.
Well, I don't
problem
even
in
know if
video
we have
games.
yet. So some people, it is hard because through the campaign, it's interesting. At endgame.
Kind of reminds me of, what was it, Wash the pilot from Firefly. He has kind of the same, like, I feel like they have the same dynamic.
If they're constantly yapping about currency and, there are things to iron out. But that's the beauty of early access and figuring it out. I don't know, like, do I seem like me? Or do I seem like a stuck-up version of me? Man, it's hard.
Pretty consistent with how you were at Exile.
Pretty
So
consistent.
fat. Fuck you, bro. Fuck you.
That's going in. That's going.
What, dude, good for him. Do you see how much weight he lost? Holy moly, dude. It's impressive, honestly. Looks great.
What's the best sound from anything? Like your favorite sound? Take your time. We can edit it to make it look like you replied just like that?
Star Wars, right? Like pick something, any moment in Star Wars, and there's like so many iconic sounds that you just...
How do they do that?
Perfect.
Ben Burt,
Perfect
man.
answer.
He's just a wizard. You know, the lightsabers, it was all like in-world, real-world stuff, not conjured. It's pretty cool.
Do you do much of that here? Like,
Dom and Dominic on the skills side and Michael on the music side, they've got all Eurorack sort of stuff that they use to synthesize sounds. But
Hi, how's it going? This is where I make my sounds. Behind me, you'll see my Eurorack modular synth.
Nice rack,
This is where I
bro.
make
otherwise, we do
just
some
cut him off.
recording of Foley and bits and pieces. You know, for the Karui stuff, we're doing some recordings of local instruments, and yeah, we try.
we recorded a whole Kapahaka group.
Dude, this whole interview is hilarious. It's like an office interview. From the I'm getting like sitcom vibes from this. They got to do more of these.
Which we haven't showed footage of, but we could do that now.
We could do
We'll
that.
a little
We
bit.
could do that. You know, we had them in a hall, and everyone was just going for it. Doing all sorts of things for Trial of the Ancestors, so that will obviously carry over into other Karui stuff. So we're trying to do more of that.
Do you have a favourite thing you've worked on so far, Pee-wee 2?
I suppose in general, just in Pee-wee 2, you know, building up ambiences and the overall world building we can bring with sound and character dialogue, NPCs, monsters, you know, all sorts of stuff, like how that contributes to making it feel like a world and a place.
Slavery will not be necessary when the dreamer awakes.
And, you know, like I mentioned earlier, the Geonor slam poetry, that's an example that I'm proud of, where we kind of got that happening, you know, like it's complementary to gameplay, the combat's still happening, but it's just sort of there. And it wasn't actually planned, it was just something that I was trying last minute with the actor when we were reworking some parts of his vocal in the fight.
Are all audio designers just musicians that need more money for gear?
Yes.
Cool.
It's an obsession. Like, if I have better gear, my sound will be better, and it's not true. Don't tell. No, just go along with them. Like,
Don't tell Dominic.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like, yeah, nice. If you see if he's got another module on his Eurorack, if you said to him, "Wow, nice new module," he'd probably cry with joy, you know, like, for being validated.
swishes and swoops. Makes lots of noisy sounds. Explosions, swishes, tonal bells, and evil drones. Anything that you could imagine.
Guy mogging us in the
You can
background.
create here. With these patch cables.
Do you have any cool tidbits or like spoilers or things
got
you can
them
tell
all.
us about what you're working on, maybe? Sanctioned?
Well,
Well, now I'm really excited to go check this place out. This place seems like a fun place, dude. Like this is a whole side of the GGG studio that we haven't really seen before. Everything's always like patch notes this, information that, you know, reviews this. But this is I don't know. This is
I
like
don't know
actually
if I
really
can
cool to
share
see.
it, but we'll try. We, you know, historically, Pee-wee 1, you're running around, you're talking to an NPC, and they do the scrolling monologue of what they have to say to you, which, you know, is fine. That is an approach. But I wanted it to be a more back and forth conversation between NPCs and the player character, so that you get a more unique experience on a character per class of how they interact with the NPCs and what they think of what they're saying. And
It makes a lot of sense because the PCs are some of the most interesting characters in the
Yeah,
game.
I
Everyone
mean,
wants to know who they're playing.
the characters in town are cool, but they're cooler if you involve the player character and what they think, and then you get that, you know,
little-
because some of the player characters are a bit deranged, like the witch. So
Yeah, their little
able to-
judgments and their little... Yeah,
her being
yeah.
able to have a conversation with wholesome Renly is just going to be fun. It is worth noting. You may think, oh gosh, I will have to skip even more dialogue. Well, no, because the NPCs will naturally have a bit less to say because they're not monologuing everything. You have a more engaging conversation about things, which is generally a bit shorter and concise, but more like interesting. So it's actually like in the testing we've done, it feels really good, and maybe we can even show a little prototype. I don't know.
At least not till our ancestors took in the Val. And folks still bicker over whether that were a mistake.
I've no love for the Val, but if not for their virtue gems, our village would be a smouldering ruin right now.
This is your daily reminder that Vol is also an anagram of Alva. So she's Alva of Vol blood.
Aye, and you'd have died in Azmiri rather than an outcast.
You think that preferable?
Favorite game soundtrack or audio that isn't ours?
Oh my god. I mean, I feel obliged to say Diablo 2, but
Really?
a little bit. I mean, it is cool. I mean, actually, I'm a big Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9 nerd. Like, those were my games when I was a kid. Like,
Man, I feel like it's like Diablo 2 and Final Fantasy 7 are games that are brought up so often in these conversations that I missed out on both of these when I was a kid. I actually still have not played Final Fantasy 7. I played a bit of 14. I don't even think I've ever watched a Final Fantasy 7 playthrough.
the Final Fantasy 7 soundtrack was pretty sick.
We can't play that for copyright reasons.
Nah, but
I'll
you know,
believe
it's good. Look it up.
Just look it up.
Look it up, kids.
How did you end up working in the audio world? Like, what was your path to get here?
Since high school, I'd been in rock bands and things,
Wait, that's him?
doing, you know, playing heavy metal music. Yeah, and through that, I studied audio engineering, and I worked in recording studios, recording bands like here and abroad. But I'd always been a gamer, and I'd always loved that part of it. And for some time, I'd wanted to get into game audio, and there wasn't really an opportunity. But classic New Zealand, you know someone who knows someone, that whole thing. And I heard of a job at GGG. And at that time, there was only one other guy here, right? So, and I was determined, you know, I'm getting an interview no matter what. Like, that has to happen. And I don't know how it would go these days, but I somehow got Eric's email and was just like spamming him directly, like day after day, until he gave me an interview. And it was good. He was very relaxed, wearing socks only, and I mean, and shorts. I mean, just no shoes, you know, not just socks.
Very formal.
Socks,
Yep.
shorts, t-shirt.
Be sure of the interview.
Was still
What were you dressed in?
acceptable. I was like this, you know. I like dressing up to come to work. Anyway, but he was very, you know, very serious and but cool, and the studio seemed cool and exciting, and yeah, I was lucky enough to get in.
What is your favorite band?
My favorite band is probably, I'm old, you know, so I like old school metal, like not even super heavy, just like 80s, like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath.
Bass.
And, you know, back in the day when I was in a band, we got to play with Ozzy Osbourne, so that was pretty cool.
No
That's my
shit.
claim to fame.
Oh,
Got
shit.
to shake his hand and say thank you, and he said something incoherent and walked away. That was fun.
My final question is related to that. Would you be mad if we posted a link to your music video from 14 years ago?
I mean, no.
Holy dude.
I was, it's so annoying, you know. Like
Got the
last
trench
night,
coat,
I'm looking
dude.
at the questions, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, you know, I have this talk like that, and I'll say this thing, and I'm all this like fun guy, and then I get here and I'm not. What is that? What is that? It's the real fucking corporate shill. What am I now? Fucking loser.
You used to have long hair, bro. You lost the hair.
That's we got to open. Yeah, we got to open with that. Yeah, there is something about being in front of the cameras that, like,
Yeah, you just start saying stuff. You don't talk like this.
no.
Fucking.
Like, imagine if I did Build of the Week in my normal voice. Welcome to Build of the Week. I'm Evan from
grinding build of the week.
All right. Thank you very much, Kane, for joining
Thank you.
us.
Thanks.
Downstairs. two flights down
Yeah,
from your office.
yeah, back to the grind.
Back to the grind. Making
Thanks.
more goblins.
That was actually hilarious. Okay, that was highly unexpected of an interview, but that was probably the funniest interview I've seen in a long time. Just this random little lore drop in the middle of the week, I suppose. That's pretty good.